Oh, but I am most famous for this. I'm the mad photo bomber of MSNBC. As a matter of fact, you saw all the people who graduated here today? Did anybody notice that I was in the crowd? Spies, baby. We're good at getting into places nobody wants us or notices us. So that's really all about me. So people always say, Malcolm, you know, you're coming up here and you're trying to tell us about terrorism, and it's a lot to take in. Can you summarize for me very quickly how terrorism is going to affect whatever group I'm speaking to? So today, I'm talking about advanced anti-money laundering and financial crimes, correct? So, in 5 seconds, I'm going to finish my whole presentation. And I'm going to tell you exactly how ISIS and Al-Qaeda and these groups are affected. All right? So, let's go. See if you can catch me. 5 seconds. Money gets you this. Any questions? Want me to go back and do that again? This is where terrorism comes from. Look, any idiot can stand there and want to go out and behead people and want to go out and project their ideology. For 5 years, here's another little secret, I was a terrorist. I ran a group at the Advanced Terrorism Abduction and Hostage Survival School in Coronado. We were the National Special Mission Unit, that's the Tier 1 Special Operations people's terrorist. We were Al-Qaeda from 1997 to 2001. And being a terrorist is fun. Because, look, I can kidnap a Special Forces soldier in 30 seconds with the right vehicles, the right number of guys, and we always bring a woman into the mix, and the guy gets out there and he thinks he's feeling comfortable because we haven't kidnapped him in a week, and then we just jump on him and throw his butt into a van, and he's now a terrorist hostage. It's fun, but all of that takes money. It doesn't happen in a vacuum. Because the key to terrorism is the projection of your power. But before you can project power and harness the global news media, you must actually be able to buy that knife. And you don't see something. There are no poor terrorists. There are terrorists who may come from a poor background. Many terrorists come from crime. But there are no terrorists who are just, you know, sitting there on the street corner and decides he's going to hijack an airplane. It just doesn't happen that way. It requires backing. And most of that backing comes from someone who believes in your cause, someone who thinks your charity, you're giving charity to you, will affect a message that will be projected worldwide. And that's why you get to this. Terrorism is not the man with the knife beheading one of tens of thousands of people. It's how he got to where he is with the knife and this photo. They are projecting an image of their power, and it's designed to scare you. And the moment you are frightened is the moment they have finished their work, which is why ISIS used 6th century techniques of brutality. That's a cleanser, by the way. It's like eating ginger after wasabi. So let's go into it and give you some background, because one of the things that I learned the most is most people really don't know what they're up against. What do they believe? Who are these guys? First off and foremost, I will clear up a myth right now, okay? Barack Obama did not create ISIS. I actually get people who sincerely walk up to me. ISIS started in 2006 after we invaded Iraq. They had a name before they were the Islamic State of Iraq and al-Sham. That name was Al-Qaeda. Anybody heard of them? Al-Qaeda, and then they became Al-Qaeda in Iraq. And then in 2006, they decided to try a name change. It didn't stick until 2011. And that's where they came from. But you have to understand what they believe. And this is where many people who even think about terrorism make mistakes. I have a lot of people who tell me, the problem is Islam, Malcolm. Well, you know, I've lived as a Muslim. I've gone to mosque, I've hung out with these guys. I can tell you all right now, without any wavering, what every person in the Muslim world wants right now. And it's not beheading people. Do you want to know what the Muslim world wants? 2017 Toyota Corolla. No, I'm not joking. They want a nice car like the taxi drivers drive that's reliable. If they're in Afghanistan, they prefer that Long March Chinese-made pickup truck because they don't like the Ford Rangers. They want their kids to go to school, and then they want their sons to have a wedding. That's it. I've pretty much summed up 99% of the Muslim world. I can tell you what they don't want. They don't want anything that messes with their tradition. And here are their traditions. There are 5 pillars to Islam. They have to witness that there is one God, right? La ilaha illallah, Muhammadur Rasulullah. There's only one God but God, Muhammad is his messenger. That's called the Shahada, right? Next, prayer. You got to pray 5 times a day. If you're busy, try to work it in. Fasting. They have to fast during the holy month of Ramadan. And during that month, they have to give charity to people who are truly destitute. And finally, one time in their life, they have to make a pilgrimage to Mecca during the Hajj month. That's it. That's Islam. Anything else is just cultural. And I get people saying, oh, but Malcolm, that's exactly what these terrorists are. Well, not really. Let's talk about these guys. Al-Qaeda and ISIS use a form of a variation of Islam that is corrupted. Yes, they have all the basic 5 pillars as well. But in their own ideology, they add 2 new pillars. Perpetual jihad, that's holy war, forever. Everyone within their group must commit suicide at some point or be ready to offer themselves as suicide. Guess what? That is not in Islam anywhere. Nowhere. It's not in the Quran, it's not in the Hadith, it's not even in discussion elementary school books. It's nowhere. They made this up. It comes from a form of cultism that came in the 6th century. And I'll talk about that in a bit. Another thing, you know, people say Islam is the religion of peace. Well, if you are actually practicing it as it's written in the Quran, yes. Same with Christianity. Same with Buddhism. Do you guys know we have Buddhist terrorist groups operating in Burma? Buddhists. They're not even supposed to kill flies, but they're killing people. It's a religion that is corrupted. And ISIS, they believe in all of these things. Takfir means a Muslim who has decided he can choose another Muslim is no longer a Muslim. That is not Islamic. Even the Prophet Muhammad himself said, only God can make that decision, right? These guys, they do it every day, and they murder Muslims by the thousands. They love mass murder. Rape is encouraged, slavery, pedophilia. I was asked on C-SPAN, Malcolm, what's the most upsetting thing you found in your book? I said, oh, you mean the thing that I was writing and made me throw the entire manuscript across the house? When ISIS decided that you could marry a 9-year-old girl, but you could not have sex with a 9-year-old girl, vaginally. Everything else was fair game. I said, okay, I'm done. We need to start killing some people. Because none of this is Islamic. None of it. You go anywhere else, they're disgusted by it. Absolutely disgusted. These people are a cult. They are trying to force God's hand to create. Has anybody ever heard of the phrase end of times? Normally you hear that from evangelical Christians, right? The rapture and the end of times. I have some interesting news for you. The Quran is based on the Old and the New Testament. Quran has an end of days as well, and all the same characters. The only thing that they don't have is the end of times. I'm going to skip over that. Other than they are fighting for the return of 2 individuals. And they think that if they kill enough people and take enough of the Muslim world, these entities will come back on the basis that they are pleased with them as terrorists. That sounds kooky, right? Because what they're trying to do is force God's hand In 2000, I took part in an FBI operation, an investigation called Project Megiddo. And it was the run-up to the millennium. And there were Americans in Israel trying to commit acts of terrorism so that Jesus could return to earth. Really. The Israelis had arrested no less than 5 people. One couple twice was deported, came back and were trying to blow up a bomb at Dome of the Mosque so that the Muslims could start killing all the Jews so Jesus would come back, because it's in the Quran. It's in the, you like that? It's in the Bible. Same thing. That's what these guys are doing, trying to force God's hand. None of that is Islamic. So, they are fighting to get to the end of times, just like it's the same end of times that's in the Bible. It's the same end of times that's in the Torah. They're all from the same God, the Abrahamic God. And by the way, Abraham was a migrant worker from southern Iraq, the town of Nasiriyah, the city of Ur. I have been to the ziggurat of Ur in Nasiriyah Air Base in southern Iraq. He was just a migrant worker that went over to Egypt with his family to do work, came back a tribe, right? Same thing. These guys are carrying out this pathway to establish their caliphate, to battle against us, wait for the return of Dajjal, which is the Antichrist, and then the prophet Jesus returns to town. This is in the Quran, all of this.